Hello, welcome to Flower Juice. My name's John McDonald, and today we're off-site. We're in a different location. We're actually doing some flowers for a wedding of a friend, Petra, who's getting married tomorrow. So what I've done is I've got all the flowers ready that we're going to use for her wedding bouquet. So I've stripped off any leaves that are lower down, any thorns. We've got some beautiful of these pastel coloured roses. Got some nice veronica, wax flower, a little bit of mint from the garden. We've got eucalyptus. I've got a touch of gypsophila that I might use. We've got a little spray rose. Now, she did like peony roses, but they're out of season really just now. So this large-headed rose that's like a garden style is going to give us a good alternative for that. And one of the stars of the show is also going to be this senecio as a foliage. So this is going to give a different highlight, a little bit of texture, and bring in that really nice colour that's just a really good combination. So let's get started, and we're going to make our bouquet. So like any other hand tie, I'm going to use my left hand to hold the flowers, and we're going to create our bouquet. So really my left hand acts like a vase, and we just put our flowers into there. So I'm going to find the key flower for going in the centre, which is going to be one of our coloured roses. And we're just going to build up a little bit of volume. The gypsophila is nice, but I don't want it to be dominant. We want to keep this more floral and with a bit of texture, a bit of variety, and we can just add in our flowers as we go. So it's interesting being out of a studio and somewhere different because it makes you think, and that's not a bad thing. So we're actually just in a dining room, which is perfect. It doesn't matter. But there's always ways of doing things. I really like the addition of the mint and a little bit of rosemary because it gives a really beautiful perfume to our bouquet. Now, we'll make this bouquet today and then it will go into water and be finished off in the morning. So we'll not finish off the handle. But if you're unsure how to finish a bridal bouquet or a hand tie bouquet, we do have a video that shows you some different options that you could do for the finishing. And this is really your best idea, is to lay out all your materials and then you can just choose what you think is the best from those as you're working. These roses are quite big, but they're also quite heavy. It's interesting. You don't tend to think of roses as heavy, but they actually are. So a nice garden style bouquet. We're not going to make it too big. It needs to be in scale with the bride and the dress and in the general way of the wedding. So this one is not going to be a big bouquet. It's more of a posy style that's floral, feminine, a little bit modern with our colours. But just has that kind of natural garden style and feel. I'm taking off the odd flower off these little spray roses, and the reason I'm doing that is just to give me a cleaner stem for actually putting into the hand tie. And we can look at how we do things, like this piece here. If I take off these two sides, I do have a buttonhole or two to make as well. I can cut this piece, which gives us two good pieces with nice stem for adding in to the actual bouquet. So you're looking at the economics of putting it together, but also how best you can use the materials that you've got. So we don't necessarily need to have a lot of materials. It's how we cut them and put them in is going to give us more coverage. with our flowers. And the same with these wee bits. We can just come in at the edge. Now everything must go through the tying point, obviously. So this is why we won't finish it off today, is because I like to put the flowers into deep, cool water overnight so they really get a good drink. So they've already been conditioned, but they're going to get more of a drink by being up to the tie point in water and put somewhere cool. So that way we know that everything is going to be completely hydrated and able to last on a hot summer day. Also, I think if you finish off the bouquet on the day, it gives you an opportunity to give it a final check. So have things moved, have things grown? Do you need to make a change in any way? It just makes you revisit the bouquet and look at it again and give it a second final check. So this is a little bit dominant, this piece here, so we might just take it back a little bit, because the problem with pieces like that is that in a photograph that'll really stand out as being, you know, it's sticking out and ruining the shape of the bouquet. So whereas I'm standing here and it looks fine, what we want is to know that that isn't going to stick out in a photograph. And I think I just want one more rose. So we can take another rose just to go into here, and that's going to give it nice balance. So another thing as well, just check your roses that they're in good condition, there's no bad petals, and take off any cover petals that there might be. So this is really our bouquet. We've got nice clean stems, we've got a nice consistent tie point where everything spirals in the same way, and we can now tie this off. So I'm just using like a garden twine, catch it with your finger, go round a couple of times, and then we can tie it. So I'm going to double tie it, cut it, and we can now, to be honest, I like to tie them again for finishing them off, so we can actually do this now anyway. Essentially what you're doing is bringing the stems together, which makes it easier for binding the stems for making a handle or to finish off the stem area. So there's nothing in here that I would worry about. Sometimes you want the stems to splay out, so you would only need to tie it in one place. But if we're going to tie this with ribbon to make it comfortable to hold, then we don't need to worry about that. And then all we need to do is just cut it to size. So normally I would leave it a bit longer and then we can cut it, but we can actually cut this. And good pair of secateurs, straight across, and just double check that there's no thorns or any odd bits, and we've got a perfect bouquet. So I'm going to put this straight into water now, and right into deep water, and that will just sit perfect overnight. So that is our bouquet that we're going to do. I've got these little bits, as I say, I'm going to keep, but I need to make a couple of arrangements that are going to be given to the mums, and what the bride would like would be a hat box. So what we've done is we've taken the hat box, we've cut some cellophane by using this measurement and then the measurement across and the measurement up with just a little bit of leeway. We've cut 4 squares, 2 squares, but then put them slightly apart so that we get the corners all coming up. This is going to protect the actual box from water, which is very important. The other thing as well is it also creates a nice collar for our arrangement. So the hat box style is essentially going to mirror this style and be like a low arrangement. So what I've got in here is I've got 2 pieces of wet floral foam up on their edge back to back. I took a little bit off the end, so you're better to measure it first, then soak what you need, rather than soaking a load of foam and then realise that you're actually cutting off quite a lot to throw in the bin or not use. So that is a good trick or a good tip. Again, this senecio is just lovely for creating a base for our flowers. And our flowers for this one are going to be very, very similar. Essentially the same contents again for the actual thank you arrangement. I think what I find is these compact style designs, not only do they work well, they're easy for people to handle, but they actually last better as well. The materials kind of hold each other and they create like their own little microclimate, and they last really, really well. So we've got our cineraria giving us a nice highlight. We've got our eucalyptus just giving us a little bit of length. So we've got a good base for our flowers. And we can start to add. So the ones that I'm going to add first are going to be the larger roses. Now what I really want to do is, I don't want this rose just to hover up here. I want the stem to go down to the bottom, because I know that there's going to be a water source low down for as long as possible with this. So if the customer or the recipient doesn't actually water the flowers, I know that they will have water right until the actual design runs out of water. Whereas if I put them in and only in about an inch, yes, they'll get water, but as that water starts to diminish in the foam, what will happen is it'll lose the ability to soak up water. So we've put in our 3 main flowers, and now we can look at our roses, pick the nicest one for going in the centre, because that's important. Again, I'm just doing a wee double check on petals, that they're in good condition, and we can work our coloured roses in next. So as I say, these bigger headed roses are giving us the effect of like a peony, which is nice. We're also going to make a couple of gift items for the dads. So you've heard of a thank you bouquet or a thank you arrangement for a mum. Well, these dads are getting a little bottle in a gift basket with just a couple of flowers added as well. So I think that's quite nice. It always seems to be the mums that get the flowers and the dads just get the bill, whereas this time the dads are going to get something as well, which is really nice. So I'm just taking off a petal if I think it's not the best. So we've got our main roses, we've got our secondary roses, and then we've got our other material that we can bring in. So the first part of that is going to be our little spray roses. Now, they're never perfect, so you just need to remove any elements that you think will be noticeable that aren't nice. So like that one there had obviously lost a bud or two in the process of growing. But we can cut this in such a way that we can get the most out of this stem. So even like this, we cut that, I can make this stem longer by using this main stem that came with it. I do like the spray roses. I think they're just really pretty. And they just create a contrast in the scale of the roses as well. So like here, you can see this rose, there was no head on it. But I can cut this stem here and get 2 stems. So really our veronica then is going to just give us a change of feel of the actual design. It's going to give us a contrast to all these round shapes, and this is also going to give us a little bit of height, which is, you need a little bit of a contrast when you're doing your flowers. If we just went with it all round, it could look a little bit samey or a little bit boring. So I'm not saying that you have to use veronica, but something that just gives you a little contrast is a good idea. Now, I won't worry about adding water to this. As we're putting in stems, we're displacing water, so you'll find that this has got more than enough water if you're making it close to the time, which you probably are anyway. You won't need to add any extra. And this is wax flower. It has a nice perfume, but it also has a nice little star-shaped flower. And that is our final little element that's just going to add some interest. So essentially our thank you flowers mirror the design of the bridal flowers. What I might do is just put a little touch of gyp in there, just so that it is the same. But I mean literally one little bit, maybe two little bits. But just so that it is there, but in no way is it, you don't look at it and think, oh, that's full of gyp. Yeah, that just takes a little bit of white down into that area. So essentially we've got beautiful thank you arrangement for a mum. I'm going to do another one exactly the same as that so that we've got a pair, and we've got our lovely bridal bouquet, and all we need to do in the morning is just knock off the water, give it a little dry with a cloth, and finish that with a nice ribbon with probably a couple of pins as well. So this is going to be the thank yous for the dads, and what the couple have got is they've got nice little bottles of special champagne or sparkling wine, and we don't want this to look feminine, but we want it just to be a highlight, and it's a symbolic gift. So I need to secure our bottle into the container, so I'm just using a stem from a rose. This is the thing, when you're not in your usual setting, you might have to do things differently or find a different alternative. So I've got a stem from a rose, which is nice and secure, and we're going to pop our bottle in, and I want the bottle to sit like this. So really, it's just sitting there and it's quite fun. If I want, I can take another piece of stem just to help support that, and that's giving us nice secure, but we're actually seeing what the gift is. So this container we thought was quite good. It's kind of fun. It also is suitable for man, but then it's something that they can maybe do something with afterwards. So it could be used for a plant or in the garden. Now, I don't want to hide this bottle. There's a danger that it would be very easy to ultimately lose it. But we're just going to make a bit of a feature. So it's not really a flower arrangement, it's more just some foliage, just creating like a couple of bumps really of feature foliage. Now the nice thing with this is it's going to match our other arrangements that we've done, which is cute. We can go with a little bit of height, and I want this to be good from all round, and we are going to put in a little bit of flower. So I do have just 2 roses, 2 veronica and 1 spray rose. So first of all, we'll put in our veronica. As I say, I don't want this to look like an arrangement, but we can get a little bit of height with our veronica. We can go with our more bud-like flower higher up. So we're just making like a little highlight really. And then with our spray roses, I can come in here with a little touch of spray rose. I'll put a little spray rose down there. And that's really it. That's just as cute as it needs to be. As I say, it's more a symbolic design. This senecio is just perfect. I'm loving the fact, like normally you might look at it and go, well, it's a little bit thin, but actually it's just perfect. Now, another thing that they've got is they've got a little ornament for both mums and both dads. So what I've done is I've created a wire at the back that we can use, and we can just feed that in, and then that gives them a little keepsake that they're able to have, both for the mum and the dad, for after the wedding. So not only is it a keepsake container, but we've got some nice wine as a feature, and we've got a little keepsake gift in with it. So for this wedding, we only need a couple of buttonholes, and really it's for the boys. And because this is for tomorrow, I don't want to make a buttonhole in the way that I might do in the UK, because we're actually here in Hungary and it's a heat wave at the moment. So what I want to do is, rather than wiring and taping every flower, putting it together, because once you've done that, all the materials are out of water. What I want to do is just make like a little bunch that can be used as a buttonhole, but we can keep in water overnight. And that's going to be a much better way of ensuring that they're fresh. So I've just been keeping like the little bits of materials that have been interesting, and you know, like the little roses that I took off earlier. And we're going to use these to make literally like a little tied bunch for wearing. And as long as everything's had a bit of a drink, it's not so bad. But we don't want to make an actual corsage as such. So this literally looks like a wired one, but we still have the stems, and that's going to be the thing that makes the difference. So I do have paper covered wire, and what we'll do is we'll bind it with the paper covered wire. This is not what I would normally do for a buttonhole, but I do know that in some countries this is the route that they now have taken, because it just allows them to make things and keep them fresh. And actually, as you can see, it's a lot quicker. So I'm going to make a little feature of where we've bound it with the wire. And then we can just snip that. The good thing with the paper covered wire is it's not sore, you know, it's not likely to spike people. But that is our little buttonhole, and I can just put that straight into water. It's fine overnight, and we don't need to do anything. Now, the good thing with this style of corsage as well is that we're able to make them, they're all different. They don't have to be the same, because we're working with very much a kind of garden style. It's fine. It's fine that this one doesn't have a big rose and that one has a little bit more of one thing. It doesn't really matter. The only thing is I have actually wired 1 or 2 of the bigger leaves of the ivy, just because I realised I had them. And they'll be fine out of water because they're actually quite a hard leaf in themselves. So I can actually use the tail end of that wire just to help bind it. But yeah, so any leaf that is hard, I don't want these wires to be sticking down, so we can take them off. Yeah, any leaf that is hard is going to be quite turgid, it's going to be fine. But any that are soft, so even if you were using ivy and you've got the soft growth, you're better to steer away from that. Just because it will wilt and it will let you down, and you'll just think, oh, why did I use it? It's worth finding the ones that are going to be good for the day. So I'm just making sure that that binding wire that I'm using there is covering the wires that I just snipped. Just twist that off, give it a wee turn, make sure that it's 100% happy. I can just see the tail end of a wire there, so we'll just push it in. And we're basically good. Well, I see we're basically good. I think we could do with a little bit more wire. So I'm not going to risk anything. If you do notice it, don't think it'll be okay. Make sure it's okay is probably a better way to do things. So I could see that there was still a couple of wires showing there, but that's fine. They're now covered and we're good. So there we go. We've got two, just going to wet that, two little corsages, ideal for the boys, and they can be kept in water and just literally taken out and pinned on, and they're perfect. So that's our buttonholes. Okay, so here we are. We've got to the end of what we need to do for the wedding tomorrow. We've got a beautiful hat box arrangement for the mums. We've got an interesting and unusual design for the dads. We've got our simple tied buttonholes for the groom and a really nice fresh bouquet for the bride. And standing here, I can just smell the rosemary and the mint, and it just smells perfect. So I hope you've enjoyed coming out with us today and being off-site and doing something a little bit different, and just seeing how actually the things look together is quite interesting. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and please subscribe and tap the bell to keep up to date with all our new videos. We've got new videos every week and we'd love to share them with you.